Breaking tonight, President Trump bringing down the House at CPAC. Hello and welcome to Justice, live from our nation's capital. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. We've got a big show on deck tonight with Matt Schlapp, Dan Bongino, Dr. Sebastion Gorka, Dennis Prager, and Tom Fitton, to name just a few. Plus, a very special exclusive look at my speech to the crowd at CPAC just a few short hours ago. But first, it was the longest speech of his presidency to date, and President Trump didn't disappoint. Let's take a look at some highlights from his wide-ranging campaign-style talk earlier today.
You know I'm totally off script right now. And this is how I got elected, by being off script. And if we don't go off script, our country's in big trouble, folks, because we have to get it back. And when I look at what's happening on the other side, I encourage it. I say, no, I think the new Green Deal, or whatever the hell they call it, the Green New Deal, right? Green New Deal. I encourage it. I think it's really something that they should promote. They should work hard on. It's something our country needs desperately. They have to go out and get it. But I'll take the other side of that argument only because I'm mandated to. I'm mandated. But they should stay with that argument. Never change. Never change. No planes. No energy. When the wind stops blowing, that's the end of your electric. Let's hurry up. Darling? Darling, is the wind blowing today? I'd like to watch television, darling. And all of a sudden, they're trying to take you out with okay? Now, Robert Mueller never received a vote, and neither did the person that appointed him. And as you know, the Attorney General says, I'm going to recuse myself. I'm going to recuse. And I said, why the hell didn't he tell me that before I put him in? How do you recuse yourself? But the person that appointed Robert Mueller never received a vote. Robert Mueller put 13 of the angriest Democrats in the history of our country on the commission. What we've done together has never been done in the history, maybe of beyond our country, maybe in the history of the world. They came from the mountains and the valleys and the cities. They came from all over. And what we did in 2016, the election, we call it, with a capital E, it's never been done before, and we're going to do it, I think, again in 2020, and the numbers are going to be even bigger.
Joining me now with reaction to the president's speech and so much more, a man who actually wrapped up a very busy week himself, CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp. Good evening, Matt.
Wow. Wow. I think that's the word humdinger, maybe.
Well, I got to tell you, he had that place on his feet. But more than that, didn't he just come off a plane after having traveled halfway around the world?
Something like 40 hours in the air and less than 40 hours on the ground, and he comes right, as I said in my remarks, he walked away and walked right over to CPAC.
Yeah, he did.
Which was just awesome.
And you should have felt great. I mean, you run CPAC. You're in charge of it. You had how many speakers there this year?
About 200 speakers. We had half the cabinet, a bunch of West Wing senior staffers for the president. We obviously had the president and the vice president.
You had a lot of good speakers there this year.
A lot of great speakers. We had Van Jones, which was interesting. A lot of
Well,
great
I want to
speakers.
talk to you about Van Jones,
Yeah.
but I do want to talk about the president first. Look, the president gets off the plane. He delivers what many of us believe to be the longest speech he has ever delivered since he's been the president. And he's full of energy. And there is nothing that he didn't cover in that speech. He covered everything. Did he say to you, look, man, I'm a little tired. I might not be able to do this?
He talked ahead of time, and he had this funny thing where he said, hey, have you ever had someone say that they're actually not going to keep their commitment? I was like, oh, yeah, I sure have. He goes, don't worry, I'm going to be there. But, you know, it's been a real busy trip, and let's see how it goes. I don't know if I'm going to really be energetic. And he was pretty energetic. And then when he got done, Judge, he was ready to keep going. I bet he could have gone another hour.
He definitely could have.
He feeds off the energy of those college kids. Yeah. You can see he just loves every minute of it.
Well, he always feeds off the energy of his audiences, and that's why I think he should get out of the White House and just go out there and talk to the people of this country, whether they're college or whether they're senior citizens. He is of the people. But let me ask you this. Van Jones. Now, here's this guy who was a drug czar. Wasn't that what he was?
Something like
that. And he works for CNN.
Green energy czar, yeah.
Yeah, some czar. He was a czar. I think of drug czars because that's the only thing I'm accustomed to from my background. But how did he get at this conservative political action committee? Did you invite him?
We did invite him, and the reason is because we've actually worked with him on criminal justice reform, which has been a big initiative of the president's. Sure. And Van Jones is one of the liberals with character, I'll say, who, when the president does something right, he supports him. And that's almost like a lost cause with liberals. It's hashtag resistance. They hate everything about him.
Well, but okay, so he came and gave credit where credit was due in prison reform.
He did.
Did he say anything about getting pushback from the left?
Yeah, he said he was
already.
Yeah, he said he was going to take it for being there, and he sure did. I watched the Twitter, and some people were pretty brutal, and I don't think he cares because I think he believes he is character, and when the president does the right thing, he believes he should support him.
All right, now you do this every year.
We do.
And who is it that you plan or that you intend when you start the conference to bring, and what is it that you expect them to get out of this?
Well, the big thing in the last 5 years with CPAC is to try to bring some unity to the conservative cause. You know, when you have President Obama in there for 8 years, that left us in shatters. Now, we knew we didn't like what Obama was doing, but we didn't seem to be able to come up with a playbook. We tried McCain. The Republicans tried to nominate McCain, then Mitt Romney. None of that was going to get anything done. And then we had that primary in 2016. I think CPAC had a big part in making folks realize that politics for the Republicans needed to change and change fast, because they were never going to win again.
Well, and you know, we should learn from the Democrats not only how to stay cohesive, but also, you know, how to you know, circle the wagons when somebody comes after one of us. But that doesn't happen. And I think, lastly, I just want to ask you, I mean, you've had the president for the last
3 years.
3 years.
That's right.
I mean, that's pretty, it says a lot for you and your organization.
Reagan spoke every year of his 8 years. The difference is with President Trump is it is a central part of how he explains to the American people what he wants to do. And the vice president comes too, and he gave a great indictment of socialism.
Mick Mulvaney, I was very impressed with him. He had just gotten off the plane. He kept saying, I can't think of words. I'm exhausted.
I might be as exhausted tonight as Mick Mulvaney was on Friday, but
well, you
I don't know.
should be. You did a great job. Match lap. Thanks so much. Now, let's take a listen to President Trump with some words to his critics after he wisely walked away from this week's summit with Kim Jong-un.
And I do get a kick out of all these people in previous administrations. Donald Trump should not, under any circumstances, be doing this or that. You know, they tell me how to negotiate. These guys died. One administration gave billions of dollars to him and got nothing. And we haven't given him anything yet. I look forward to maybe doing something at some point. But I know one thing, I'm going to get other countries to give. Maybe not us, but I'm going to get other countries to give. And if it all works out, if it all works out. But I had to walk, because every once in a while you have to walk, because the deal wasn't a deal that was acceptable to me. I don't like these deals that politicians make. They make a deal just for the sake of doing it. I don't want to do that. I want to make a deal that either works or let's not make it.
Joining me now, host of the Dan Bongino Show podcast, Fox News contributor Dan Bongino, just back from Vietnam, along with the host of America First on the Salem Radio Network, Dr. Sebastion Gorka. All right, Dr. Gorka, I want to ask you, Kim Jong-un, A lot of criticism of the president by the left for not doing the deal, even criticism that neither of them was prepared for this summit. What's your take on what happened?
Well, I'd just like to track what the left said. This is something he shouldn't do. He's having a bromance with Kim. He's going to bend over backwards. When he walked away from the table, they said, "How could you do this? You're risking international security." So which is it, Judge? As my good friend Chris Plant says, if the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. The idea that this president, I mean, that 2-hour speech today, he went from policy to policy to policy. He was extemporaneous. He didn't use notes. This man has everything at the ends of his fingertips. Not only that, I know a friend of mine runs the Asia Directorate in the NSC, one of the best people in the National Security Council, speaks the languages of the region, knows the threat North Korea poses, and has the ear of the president. So he did exactly what had to be done. Kim was playing games. He walked away from the table.
Okay. Dan Bongino, you just got back from Vietnam. What was it like over there? How was the president received? How was the Kim Jong-un received?
Well, the country was excited to have us there. I mean, there were American flags all over the place. But I didn't get the sense of disappointment on the ground that seemed to be relayed by some in the, in the talking head anti-Trump media, Judge. I think Trump went in with very realistic expectations. Yeah, I mean, let's not, obviously he would have preferred an agreement. I mean, that goes without saying. But Sebastian's right, Judge. Trump understands, I think, from his time in business, what a lot of career politicians don't. He understands the concept of leverage. Judge, listen, the country's starving. The country is starving to death. He doesn't care about his people, but he does care about keeping his military happy. And Trump understands that. And keep in mind, now he has a big cudgel and a weapon under the North Korea, Kim. Kim has his nuclear weapons. But unlike the Soviets, who we defeated in the Cold War, Judge, we had mutually assured destruction. We would have destroyed each other. Kim only has Kim-assured destruction. He doesn't have the nuclear arsenal that the Soviets did. He's going to have to come around. The president understands leverage. He's going to wait him out, and good for him. He walked away from a bad deal. Smart thing to do.
Okay, what leverage do we have over Kim Jong-un?
Look, the fact is, the president's decision was not just a message to Pyongyang, it was a message to Beijing, and that's where our leverage is. The leverage is the tariffs. China is bleeding out from all its veins right now. They're losing massive amounts of value on their stock market. They are worried that this trade war could escalate. The president has fired a shot across the bow. This was a message to China that Kim has to start behaving. And guess what? Kim's regime, more than 90% of what they need to survive comes from China. So we have huge leverage thanks to the president's China policy.
So Kim is pretty much subject to whatever China wants him to do. All right, I'm going to move on, guys. And Dan, let me ask you about this. You know, the president continued today in his speech talking about free speech on campuses with the sanction of getting rid of research dollars, because we're seeing too much assaults on college campuses, threats when someone comes on wearing a MAGA hat. I'm going to talk about a lot of that a little later. But what do you think can be done? You were in law enforcement. What can be done every time one of these things happens?
You know, Judge, it wasn't coincidental that from the reviews I saw on Twitter, again, I was in Vietnam, not at CPAC, but I heard that was the loudest applause line he got about this potential executive order protecting free speech. I think this is a fantastic idea. But, Judge, I want to tell you why. You've heard the adage, I'm sure Sebastian's heard it as well, all politics are local, right? In the end, they are. What matters to people on their kitchen table and in their backyard, they will always vote on, and partisanship goes out the window. What does this have to do with the EO? Judge, do you have any idea how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of conservatives across college campuses in America right now are personally experiencing this? And maybe it's not de jure, maybe it's not some kind of legal speech suppression, but it is certainly de facto. And that's the reason that young crowd erupted in applause when President Trump said, "No more. You are going to speak out and I'm going to protect you."
Whether it's de jure or de facto, and to the viewers, that's all legal hogwash. The bottom line is these kids are being threatened every day. You were shaking your head when Dan was speaking?
Yeah, look, I had that young man. I had this young individual who was assaulted in Berkeley. Hayden. I had Hayden on my show, on my radio show. And the key point here is he has been emboldened by this attitude that we have on the right, that we're not going to take this lying down. It's about the truth. I asked him, you were cold-cocked. Are you going to be more quiet about being a conservative? He said, are you joking? I'm going to double down. I'm going to talk out for freedom of speech more than ever. That's the attitude. That's what we hear today. And that's what the president stood up for. And what did he do? He invited Hayden up onto the podium.
I saw
he allowed him to speak.
And we just saw a picture of Hayden with a black eye. All right, I want to quickly jump to the president's counsel today, and Cohen, convicted liar, testified before Congress. Did he fall flat? Did any of it matter, Bongino?
Judge, he contradicted himself, Cohen. Do you realize in the same testimony, he said two separate things. He said Donald Trump wasn't serious about the campaign. He didn't want to win. He treated it like an infomercial. No less than 45 minutes later, he told Debbie Wasserman Schultz at the same hearing, Donald Trump would have done anything to win the election. It's like, did this guy keep this? Judge, you're a lawyer. I love the profession, but how this guy passed the bar exam, I don't know.
Well, you know what? And I only have 15 seconds left. What's your take on Cohen testifying?
Michael Cohen is a rat fink who was used by the Democrats like Blasey Ford was. This is a man who actually committed perjury again, so he's probably going to get his sentence extended, not shortened.
You know when he committed perjury, when he said that he really didn't want to work for the president in the White House, he was asking everybody, can you help me be chief of staff? Wasn't he going to buy a place in Washington? Give me a break. Dan Bongino, Dr. Sebastion Gorka, thanks so much. All right, and reaction to the president's comments at CPAC on socialism, the recent uptick in leftist violence, and much more ahead. Plus, Tom Fitton joins me with a new warning about the Mueller investigation. And next, Dennis Prager is here with me to explain how we can avoid the slow creep of socialism. But first, President Trump wasn't the only one who had the CPAC crowd rocking today.
You can't deny our economy is doing great, that the minorities have jobs, more jobs than they've ever had in the history of this country. Asians, African Americans, Hispanics. American factories are hiring again, that minorities have never seen employment like this. Wall Street is roaring. U.S. oil production is at an all-time high. And the signing of the biggest tax cut package in history is working for everyone. Who wouldn't like this? Who wouldn't like the fact that retail sales went up 6% last year? And Larry Kudlow, he's right too. Put socialism on trial. I'll be happy to prosecute it. And let's convict it.
But while we're making great strides, and our country is doing as well and maybe in many ways better than it's ever done before, Democrat lawmakers are now embracing socialism. They want to replace individual rights with total government domination. Just this week, more than 100 Democrats in Congress signed up for a socialist takeover of American health care.
That's President Trump warning conservatives of a socialist nightmare that could overtake our country if we allow it. Here now with the reaction to this and so much more, nationally syndicated radio show host Dennis Prager, whose Prager University website had more than a billion, that's with a B, views last year. And his latest book, Rational Bible, is the best-selling Bible commentary in America today. So what's it like being on top?
First, I just want to tell you how great it is to see you in person.
I know. We're always across the
across the country.
Satellite or something. First thing I said to Dennis Prager was, "You're a lot bigger than I thought you were."
Yeah, I'm 6'4", and everyone imagines me at 5'8", and I still don't know why, but that's fine.
And everyone imagines that I'm 6'4", and I'm nowhere near 6'4". So there you have it. All right, let me get to the meat of this. All right, let's talk socialism. The president just talked about the fact that they want to eliminate individual rights and replace it with total government-dominated control. You got a thing about socialism. What's wrong with socialism, Dennis?
there are many things, and I've spent my life studying this. I was at the Russian Institute at Columbia for my graduate work, so my whole life I've been studying the left, socialism, communism. So number one, though not in moral significance, but in significance, is it is an economic failure. And there's a very simple reason. Only, that's key, only capitalism creates wealth. No other economic way of life, system, philosophy has ever created wealth. Socialism spends the money that capitalism creates. No one can deny that. Even leftists can't deny that. They will say it's the moral thing to do then to spend what capitalism creates because there's inequality and all the things that they object to. But they cannot deny that it itself makes no money. So it depends on capitalism to even exist.
So that when Margaret Thatcher said socialism is great until you run out of other people's
That's correct.
money,
That's
she
it.
was on the same page as you.
Totally. Well, Margaret Thatcher.
It was fabulous.
Was Ms. Clarity.
Yes, yes.
No, that's exactly right. Secondly, it always deprives people of freedom because it makes the government bigger and bigger, and as the government gets bigger, in every instance, there is no exception, people's rights diminish. America was founded, and it's the only country founded on limited government.
Okay, let me ask you this. Every candidate running for president on the Democrat side believes in socialism. The wild part about this is when Bernie Sanders ran 3 years ago, when he said he was a Democrat socialist, I think everybody kind of went, ooh. And now it's mainstream.
That's right. Isn't that amazing?
Why? Because
the left has taken over the liberals. Liberalism has been vanquished by leftism. It's been kidnapped. If you would have asked a liberal 50 years ago, are you pro-socialist? He would have said, what, are you crazy?
Yeah.
That's crazy. The biggest anti-communists were the labor unions in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. But liberals have wimped out the battle against the left. Alan Dershowitz is a rare example of a living liberal who is anti-left.
Okay. All right. I gotta do this now. Now, you are making a movie, No
Yeah.
Safe Spaces, with, of all people, Adam Carolla. Why?
Adam Carolla and I are the closest human beings with disparate backgrounds that exists in America.
All right. Should we show this?
Yes, I think you.
All right, let's show
why
this
not?
shot
Yeah.
that we have.
Okay, yep.
It's oppressor versus oppressed, and you're a hero if you're on the side of the oppressed.
Do not choose the side of the oppressor!
You cannot be happy if you think yourself a victim.
We don't agree with Mr. Prager's views at all.
We have common sense in common, and that means we have everything in common.
We're fighting for America, which is the greatest experiment in liberty and decency in human history. And I don't want to lose it.
When does this come out? When can we see
Later
it?
this year, and it'll knock people's socks off. They will laugh and cry at the same time. It shows what's happening on the campuses, the deprivation of free speech.
Right.
Did you hear the guy said, you know, we don't want Mr. Prager? That was University of Wyoming. That was not Yale. That was not Berkeley. That was University of Wyoming.
It's a whole generation coming up with completely different sense of who we are as Americans and what we stand for.
That's right. Well, the young generation, look, it makes sense. My generation screwed up the next generation. All right, as a general statement, it did.
I don't have a lot of time. Tell me quickly how.
Okay, they made them narcissists. You have rights, no obligations. That's in it. You said a nutshell, there's your nutshell.
There's a nutshell. Dennis Prager, we love having you. We look forward to having you come back.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, the Green New Deal. You've heard from the Dems and you've heard from its detractors. Up next, what the president has to say about this controversial plan, and an all-star panel is here to debate it. You're going to like this.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Aisha Hasni. The Sacramento District Attorney announcing Saturday that 2 Sacramento police officers who shot and killed an unarmed black man last year will not face any criminal charges. The DA saying that the use of lethal force in the death of 22-year-old Stephon Clark was lawful. The officers have said they believe Clark, a vandalism suspect, had a gun, but investigators only found a cell phone. A major winter storm bringing heavy snow from California California all the way to New England this weekend, creating travel delays and flight cancellations. Some areas getting up to a foot of snow. And more winter weather is on the way. Another storm is moving across the country right now, set to bring heavy snow and rain. The worst of it expected in the northeast region Sunday night into Monday morning. I'm Aisha Hasni. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
But perhaps nothing is more extreme than the Democrats' plan to completely take over American energy and completely destroy America's economy through their new $100 trillion Green New Deal. Under the Green New Deal, which somebody described as a high school term paper written by a poor student.
President Trump rips into AOC's Green New Deal during CPAC today, even mockingly saying it's really something the Dems should promote. We'll ask my political panel tonight what they think. Conservative columnist Stephanie Hamill joins me along with Democrat strategist Jonathan Harris. Now, we all know who he was talking about. He was talking about AOC. Now, I got to ask you this. AOC, she now is the person that everybody's talking. The President of the United States is talking about her. So, Jordan, she comes out with a list. She calls it her list where she threatens to put moderate Dems on a list, and she threatens to primary them. I have two questions. Does she think she's in charge, or is Pelosi in charge, and is there going to be a struggle there? And the second thing is, the reason she said it is because some Democrats joined Republicans on a bill that required gun retailers to report when illegals tried to buy a gun. Is that a terrible thing to do?
Well, okay, so she said, she's actually come out, she tweeted and said, she didn't say that she was making a list. What she said was that they were going to put themselves on a list by their votes. That they were
okay.
That progressives,
There's a list.
But they were saying that progressives and Republicans would make a list in terms of when elections came around of the Democrats that broke off. So that's what she said she was saying. But there is a question about who, I think from the right, who's leading the party. But Pelosi and AOC have actually been working really well together, which is new, because they were shading each other hardcore at one point.
A lot of shade.
Very much. She was holding a protest in her office. Pelosi said that the Green New Deal was a green dream. So they're finally working together.
Yeah, but you know what, Stephanie? I mean, what do you think? Are they coming together, Pelosi and AOC?
Pelosi doesn't really have a choice. AOC is stealing the spotlight. And so Democrats are in this weird situation where if they go against what she's saying, then they're villainized by the media and all of her base that goes after them. Remember, she has the loud minority on her side right now. And like you mentioned, this was a threat to the Democrats. And she does think she's the boss. She's in charge. She said it herself. And I don't have a problem with political parties sticking together, right? To move forward in legislation. You're not always going to get what you want. But what she was attacking moderate Democrats over was the amendment. It was a common sense amendment where it was going after gun retailers, asking them to report illegal immigrants who are buying guns. It is illegal for illegal immigrants to attempt to purchase a firearm. That is not unreasonable. 10 years ago, Democrats would have supported that.
Well, the thing is, I think, first of all, too, they're making a little bit more out of this. I think the right is making a bit more out of this than there is.
The question that I'm asking you is, you agree that illegals should be reported if they try to buy a gun?
Of course.
Good.
There's no
Okay,
question.
let's move on. Now, the one thing that I really like about AOC is her cow thing. The cow emissions. And if you watch my show, you know what I'm talking about. She then adds to it and she says that the cow's flatulence have an impact on climate change. So she says, I'm not going to force everyone to go vegan, but we have to address factory farming, and maybe we shouldn't be eating hamburgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Is that a little, is that somewhat of a dictatorship?
You know, you can look in, and there have actually been studies that say that the amount of sort of mass breeding that we do of cows for the
she's telling us
consumption
we
of
don't need to eat it for
Jonathan,
breakfast.
are you getting ready to give up your cheeseburgers?
No, I can't.
I didn't think you would.
I can't have her taking my cheeseburgers. Like, I can't do it. No, I think she's just encouraging us to make better choices and saying that as a part of the Green New Deal, part of climate change, as a
She's
part of
a
addressing
bartender.
that.
Should we be drinking and not eating hamburgers?
Maybe when she was a bartender, she would have disagreed, but now she's probably like, no, don't do that anymore.
What do you think, Stephanie?
Look, I'm not a big meat eater, so this doesn't really affect me, but I am just petrified of the idea of somebody suggesting that the government should regulate when you eat cheeseburgers or shouldn't. This Green New Deal is a green scam, the Green New Scam, and the only thing missing out of her bill is a rather short bill. When I looked at it, I actually laughed out loud. I read it a few times because I just couldn't really digest what was in there because it was just so ridiculous. It's like her and Bill Nye, the fake science guy, and a third grader got together and just wrote it. It's that bad. I just couldn't. I mean, did you read the bill, Jonathan?
It is
absolutely ridiculous to think that we're going to just get rid of fossil fuels in the next few years.
That's not,
we can just take a boat to Hawaii if we want to.
What you guys do is you take
planes
her,
won't exist.
But you take these fringe outliers and you try to make them the party. They're not the party. These are people that are elected from their district. They're not the entirety of the Democratic Party. Pelosi herself has said that the Green New Deal.
Senator Dianne Feinstein's bowing down to her. Pelosi's bowing down to her.
Pelosi? She's not bowing down to her. No,
yes,
she's
they
not.
are.
All right, well, that's going to be the end of the panel, but I must say it was delightful having the two of you on. Stephanie Hamill, Jonathan Harris, thanks for being with Justice. And coming up, violence against the right. Is the mainstream media normalizing attacks on Trump supporters? Turning Point USA Brandon Tatum joins us next to discuss this frightening phenomenon. Welcome back to Justice, live in D.C. Take a look at this conservative volunteer being beaten by a thug on UC Berkeley's campus. Now charges have finally been brought against the assailant, Zach Greenberg, in this attack. Joining me now with a reaction, Turning Point's USA Director of Urban Engagement, Brandon Tatum. All right, Brandon, the problem that I'm seeing is whether or not Americans, students, anyone wearing a MAGA, Make America Great cap, are safe. Because from the 81-year-old guy in the supermarket to the 23-year-old in the restaurant in Massachusetts, and then this kid on campus, and in addition, you can multiply it by 1,000, people are being attacked for expressing their First Amendment rights of free speech in a cap. What are you and Turning Point and Hayden Williams, are you going to go after UC Berkeley?
So this is what I will say. President Trump has done a wonderful job by promising that he's going to stand up for Americans, you know, first freedom of speech on campus. And Turning Point has been on the front lines, boots on the ground, fighting for these students year in and year out, for them to have the freedom to speak their mind and have access to the American dream. And these things are what we prioritize, and we're going to continue to fight for students, especially on that campus.
You know what bothers me? As you look at that video, no one on that campus helped Hayden, the victim here. There are people who saw it, and the problem with UC Berkeley is that if a kid in a MAGA hat attacked a student, they'd have SWAT teams, helicopters, the college would be on lockdown, and this kid would have been arrested in a minute. It's like this, they don't want to get involved, and prosecutors are going to have to prosecute, and UC Berkeley's got to be sued.
Right, I agree. And I think that this is a great example of how the left is being deranged on campus. We can see it with our own eyes. This is not a fairy tale. This young man got punched in the face for no reason. And because of this, I think it's just shined a light on it, and we're going to be able to have a leg to stand on when it comes to defending these young people on campus. It's a shame that people didn't step in and intervene, but I don't blame them, because you don't want to get in the middle of certain things and get yourself knocked out over something you had no involvement in. Right. But I do believe that they should take a stronger stance on campus, and they should take it seriously. And this kid, if he was a student on campus, he should be expelled indefinitely.
Yeah, he worked at UC Berkeley. He worked there. Why did it take him 8 days to figure out who he was? His face was as clear as day. And then an 81-year-old guy in a supermarket, he gets decked by wearing a hat in New Jersey. And then my favorite is this woman named Rosie, who attacks a kid wearing a MAGA hat in a restaurant in Falmouth, and she overstayed her visa. Now she's facing deportation. Karma's a tough one, ain't she?
Oh, yes, it is. Well, this is the thing. The thing that stands out to me is that these people are actually cowards, right? I wear my MAGA hat everywhere around the country.
Well, you're a big guy.
And they will not test me.
Yeah.
Trust me. But that just shows that they're cowardice and they're picking on people that they think are weak. But we as Americans, we have to stand up, stand our ground, and support one another. If I see a person deciding to attack another individual with a MAGA hat, I will intervene and I will protect that person because we are together and united as one, and I support people who support the president.
Amen. Brandon Tatum, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and up next, if you think you can trust the upcoming Mueller report, think again. Judicial Watch's Tom Fitton tells us why the report may warrant its own investigation. Justice back in a moment. Thanks.
American Idol, a new journey begins this Sunday at 8/7 Central on ABC.
Trivago helps me find my ideal hotel for business trips. A budget of $90, 3 stars, free Wi-Fi, room service, and a gym, no problem. Comparing prices for your ideal hotel is now easier than ever with the new Trivago app.
For drug-free sinus relief, get Navage, the only nose cleaner with powered suction to flush out allergens, mucus, and germs.
I used to get so congested, but Navage cleans out all the stuff that makes me miserable so I can breathe again.
Now at CVS Pharmacy and Navage.com.
It's hard to get all the daily fiber we need from food alone. That's why I love Fiber Choice. With the fiber found in many fruits and vegetables. Fiber Choice. #1 GE recommended chewable prebiotic fiber. Find it in the digestive aisle.
Chicken.
Chicken!
Chicken!
That's right, Candace. New chicken creations from Starkist.
Buffalo-style chicken in a pouch. Bold choice, Charlie.
Just tear, eat,
and go.
Try all of my chicken creations.
Chicken!
At Midas, with every oil change, you get a free tire rotation.
Makes you feel like a king. Oh. King for a day. Well, maybe not the whole day. Oop, hey, whoa.
Our $19.99 or $49.99 oil change includes a tire rotation.
Steve Hilton's one-on-one with Ivanka Trump, taking you inside the White House Workforce Initiative.
These policies are working.
The must-see interview, Sunday on The Next Revolution.
Name, Hannah Grace. Cause of death, exorcism. I believe when you die, you die. End of story. When you die, you die. When you die, you die. When you die, you die. End of story.
Buy or rent today and watch anytime, anywhere on your favorite screens with DirecTV Cinema. Movies start at channel 125.
Before you file your taxes, get the best-selling guide, The Trump Tax Cut. President Trump reduced taxes by $5 trillion. Well, now the Trump Tax Cut shows how you can benefit. Find the tax deductions, loopholes, and money-saving secrets that slash your taxes to zero. One loophole cuts your tax rate by 20%. Newsmax says the Trump Tax Cut is the best guide. In bookstores, or check out the free offer. Go online or call today and cut your taxes to zero.
Dogs in America are experiencing a health crisis, and the cause may be one specific thing in their diet. It's in hundreds of dog foods, and you may have already noticed warning signs like digestive problems, itching, bad breath, and odors, but the long-term impact can be far worse. Fortunately, world-famous veterinarian Gary Richter has a new trick to improve your dog's food at home without switching brands. To learn how to help your dog live a long, healthy life, just visit petfoodexposed.com. That's petfoodexposed.com.
If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup weed killer and were later diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, call right now.
Call 1-800-830-9377. Again, that's 1-800-830-9377.
Congratulations, you're a writer. But wait, you have to actually publish your book. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to get your book in bookstores. It's completely free.
Go to freeauthorinfo.com or call us at 800-251-4119.
The Mueller report is still looming. My next guest says the amount of corruption behind it is unbelievable, and it will be quite a test for the new Attorney General. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton joins me now to explain. All right, Tom, you appeared at CPAC with Congressman Devin Nunes. One of the things that you said that got my attention was that this Justice Department has no business writing a report on the president's conduct. Explain that.
Well, the president's president. He has a right to fire people like James Comey. He has a right to communicate with the Russian ambassador and otherwise run the government. And the idea that the Justice Department is writing a report on the president's conduct as president is ridiculous.
You make it so simple and so easy.
And Attorney General Barr should be asking that. We understand, Mr. Mueller, that you've indicted all these people or prosecuted them. That's on the public record.
Right.
But your opinion about the president's conduct as president, it's about as worthy as anyone else's opinion, and the Justice Department isn't paying you to give us another dossier on President Trump. We already have one corrupt dossier, and the idea that his activist attorneys working for him, Mr. Mueller, most of whom are anti-Trumpers, will be writing some dossier on President Trump is something that needs to be rejected.
And who are you referring to?
Well, his number two, Andrew Weissman, is an anti-Trumper. We found an email to Sally Yates, the anti-Trump Obama holdover that the president had, you know, saying, I'm in awe of you after she did something outside the law and preventing the president's travel ban from being defended. And he went to Hillary Clinton's election night party. This man's going to be writing a report on President Trump? No, thank you.
All right, let's talk about, there's still so many documents from this investigation that we haven't seen. Where are the efforts now by Judicial Watch to get that stuff out? And are we going to get any information from Congress? And, you know, what do we need to see that we aren't seeing?
Well, Congress has asked, like Devin Nunes has asked for certain material to be declassified from his investigation, including witness testimony. They've been sitting on that over at the deep state. The FISA warrant application still hasn't been fully declassified.
Isn't that up to the president?
It is up to the president, ultimately.
Why do you think he's holding back on that?
Because the deep staters who pretend to be on his side come in and say you can't intervene here on behalf of transparency. Because it's about protecting the Mueller operation. They don't.
No, I know why they're doing, but what do they tell the president? We want you to defend Bob Mueller?
Yeah, that's exactly. My guess is they come in and say, if you release this information, it's going to make it seem like you're interfering in the investigation.
All right.
But it's important, you know. But we're still getting the documents out despite the obstruction. We're going to have another batch of documents showing communications between Bruce Orr and Christopher Steele, the Clinton spy.
Yeah, right. We already know they were yakking it up when they weren't supposed to.
But when you look at the documents, Judge, you wonder what anything else Orr was able to do but communicate with Steele. It was unbelievable, the number of communications. And it was desperation on the part of Steele to get this information.
So now
from the DOJ.
we've got Bill Barr, the new Attorney General. Anybody with half a brain knows that the investigation should be of the Clintons and buying the uranium and resetting and all that other hogwash. What is Bill Barr about? What is he going to do?
I don't think Bill Barr is going to come into the Justice Department and overturn tables. I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to shut down Mueller. Look, you know,
I don't want him to shut down Mueller. Let Mueller do his thing. It's ridiculous.
Well, you know, he's not going to investigate Hillary Clinton. You know, we're talking about a Mueller report. Where is the Justice Department in terms of investigating the coup attempt against President Trump, the abuse of the FISA process, the illicit spying on President Trump? And right now, Mueller is still being allowed to go around and abuse the process, the rule of law,
so you don't
to
think
target
Barr's
people who are affiliated with President Trump.
I hear Barr's a straight shooter.
He may be a straight shooter, but you have to be. I think the president's going to have to intervene to get this justice done here.
All right, Tom Fitton, thanks so much. And more from my CPAC speech next. That's fair. Finally, you saw earlier, I had the honor of speaking at CPAC, and I wanted to share a little more of my speech with all of you. Do you want to live in a country where babies are killed without consequence, without remorse, and with impunity? Do you want to live in a country where criminal illegals are protected by liberal leftists to continue their criminality and not be handed over to ICE? Do you want MS-13 gang members running through this country and into your community? Do you want to live in a country where the left is more concerned about power and control than they are about maintaining the law and order that our founding fathers envisioned? And finally, should capitalism be subverted to socialism? That's it for tonight. Keep up with me throughout the week on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. I'm Jeanine Pirro, advocating for truth, justice, and the American way. The Greg Gutfeld Show is coming up, and I'll see you next Saturday night.
American way. Of course, the next best thing to a seat in the stands is a seat in front of a 19-inch RCA Victor television.
One more day to Labor Day weekend, the traditional occasion for tasty outdoor barbecues or picnics.
Agree with all the obstacles and with all the enemies who are between me and...
This is Times Square.